Basketball fans, welcome into Raptors Today. A new week, time to talk about the road trip that was Akil Augustine, Sherman Hamilton, the principal, Paul Jones. Let's talk about it. 10-day road trip. Unfortunately for the Raptors, of the 5 games, they were only to pull out 1 win. Fans were salivating at this opportunity after the last West Coast trip. Maybe the team had figured out how to win on the road against some of these big brand name teams. Unfortunately, it wasn't the result that was wanted. Takeaways from the trip. We'll start with Sherman Hamilton. When you look back on this trip, what's the theme for you?
I go back to that first game against Washington, and, you don't want to lose that game. You get that game, you get the next game. There's a different vibe, going out west and potentially, a different mojo carries with the team. But you lose that first game, you get the second game, and now you go into a stretch of games that you have some difficult opponents to deal with. And to me, that just set a bad tone for the road trip. Now, they were competitive against Denver, competitive against the Clippers. They were competitive. They were competitive. Well, the Lakers, they kind of just got walked down in the last, 7 minutes of the game. It was just kind of they ran away. But you got to get off to a good start. And I just think that the Raptors overall didn't set the tone well to start this trip. And then other things like the officials came into play at the worst time, and it just kind of created havoc for this road trip.
Some words come to mind for me. One of them is urgency. And I still see at times, to Sherm's point about the first game against Washington, you need that. To me, that's an urgent situation. And they didn't play with that kind of urgency. They were better in the second game. Concentration, a lot of breakdown still due to communication and concentration. Guy comes off a screen, 2 guys go with him, somebody else gets a wide open shot, and then the next play we see the camera where guys are talking to each other. That can't happen in game 65.
Yeah, rotation should be down pat.
It can't happen. And then the last thing is closing. Like you think about the Denver game, but there were a whole lot of things at play there. But the bottom line is they weren't able to close it out. The Clipper game, the same way, they were in it, and then things kind of deteriorated.
You're on the wrong end of Kawhi.
And then the Laker game, it's, as Sherm said, they ran away from them. I didn't see the urgency, and they didn't close it properly. They weren't, they weren't hardened to the fact that we need to be totally in and focused on how to close and win this game. And I think that's fluctuated with this team on and off. We've seen flashes of it, which lead you to believe that this team, they can do it. We've seen it before. As Dwayne Casey used to say, you told on yourself. And then there are other times when you think, where did it go? It just kind of fluctuates a consistency. And it's still concerning. But at the same time, the other side is it's still very positive that the potential is there.
Speaking of potential, Scottie Barnes gets a career-high 32. Couple stats shy of a triple-double. We talked a lot about Scottie Barnes this year, but on the offensive side of the ball, Jonesy, what part of his game has grown the most? It's allowed him now to kind of be the one guy that stands out to you in the fourth quarters of games over this last recent stretch.
I think his confidence. He has a bunch of the tools. They're still being refined. But I think he knows now and he understands that I can do this. I can do this, almost whenever I want, or I have the ability to take over a game, and it's about exerting himself and doing it consistently. I think that's where the biggest growth has come, and the biggest growth will continue to move forward because he looks like he can take over a game whenever he wants.
He's turned another corner.
I'd say his consistent level of aggression. He to me, he's starting to, possession by possession, be more aggressive in terms of looking for offense. Not just scoring the ball, but looking to make a play instead of being kind of a role player and moving the basketball and setting screens and not really being active downhill offensively. You go back to that game against Indiana where Miles Turner was defending him in the paint.
Yep.
And there was a lot of conversation about why is Scottie not attacking. I think since then we've seen Scottie be more aggressive, and now in this pocket we're seeing a consistent level of aggression. And with his skill set, if he stays aggressive, he's going to impact the game. He's too good to not impact the game, to not force the defense to have to react to him. So I just like his level of aggression. And a game like that, I mean, Pascal scored, 12, 13 points?
Yep.
Freddie scored 8
Underperformed.
points. So you needed that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way you were going to stay close in that game, and Scottie provided that for this team.
All right, a couple of days off, hopefully, to reset their mind state. But now they have an opportunity to get back to it Tuesday against Denver. But first off, we hand you off to the head coach, Nick Nurse.
When you're this deep into a year, like, you're trying to deliver the same message a lot, but how do you sort of go about that so it doesn't get stale?
Well, listen, it's been it's been some ups and downs for sure this year, and I think that it's the hard part about it is that in our last game we played great for a long segment. I mean, great, right? And then we played really not so great. All the hard work we did for 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 22 minutes, 28 minutes just disappears in 3, right? So that's the hard part, to get back to your question, is there's a lot of really good basketball, and you got to keep reminding them of that. And we just got to, we got to figure out how to extend that really good basketball into more minutes. That's really the trick right now. And if we do, we've seen we can play really good against really good teams.
With games being so important, how do you find the balance between letting guys work through things, as you mentioned with Precious, for example, and needing guys out there that are helping you win right now?
Well, it's probably pretty difficult to let guys play through or a group play through, right? Like, I mean, listen, this isn't the first time this year we've been through this, right? I think you guys will remember we went through a really tough stretch, and then it was getting to be where the starters were pushing up towards 40 minutes a few nights there. We came back and we tried almost a whole nother system with the second unit. We started playing zone a little, and that kind of held water for 4 or 5 games, and we hit the All-Star break, etc. So we've been trying to manage this a lot of different ways. But to answer your question, I mean, you know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it as if you come out there and perform off the bench. You could have as long as 15 straight minutes, right? If you don't, you can have as short as 4, and that may be it, right? Like I know that's tough, but I think that's where we are. Yeah.
Back at it on Raptors today, and it's that time of year again. It's March Madness. So let's talk about it. First off, every year we see a new crop of Canadians making a statement, both in the NCAA and on their way to the NBA draft. Let's talk about this year's crop and who stands out to you guys. Jonesy, I'll start with you. Which of the Canadians stands out as a potential impact player in this year's tournament of 68?
I like all 3 of those guys. Ryan Nembhard's a little bit quieter in that he's such a good distributor and a good point guard for Creighton, but I'm old-fashioned in that sense. I love watching the big guy play, Zach Edey. I like the way he moves down low, his fundamentals, his skills with the ball. Defensively, he impacts the game. People are looking around for him, and the old stuff never goes out of style. It's tried, it's tested, it's true, it works. You got a big 7-footer in the middle, get him the ball. And the guy's a player of the year in the Big Ten.
Potential player of the year for the entire NCAA.
And you know what? There's an old school part of me that is warmed by watching Matt Painter get the ball into the big guy and watch old school big man basketball combined with all the other stuff has produced dangerous. They are dangerous.
Yeah, you just can't teach size. He's a big man who knows how to play, and in whatever era of basketball, skill, size, you can make it work, and he's doing a great job. But I like Marcus Carr just as a guy who, saw him in Global Jam a bit this summer, and the kid
He's
can
got
play.
some jam.
He's
got some jam.
The kid can play, and he's tough-minded, and he wants the big moment. He wants the ball in his hands. He's not afraid to make a play. Sometimes can get himself in trouble, but that's the same, he totes that line, the same thing that makes him great can kind of hurt him at times, but I love his aggression. I love his confidence. I love his ability to impact the game no matter what's on the line. So he should be fun to watch.
I want to send a big shout out to my brother from another Vidal Messiah, because those are obviously two of his guys,
Big
Zach
Vi.
Edey
Yeah.
and Marcus Carr, two guys he developed with that Northern Kings program. So shouts out to the Northern Kings as they just won this year's prep league. So I want to shout out Cali
Nice.
Prep Academy,
Nice.
also his prep
Nice.
school. Quickly on Zach.
Hey, since we're shouting out,
Yeah?
shout out to my Oakwood Barons.
Okay.
Another OFSA championship. Coach Miller, terrific job with those guys. And I will say, for the first time on a Sunday, I sat and watched an entire game, and I watched your VCU Rams. I got them winning the first round game.
They're not bad.
I got them winning
They're
the
not
first
bad.
round game.
I quickly want to touch on Zach Edey for a quick second, because you don't see too many 7'4" centers entering the NBA. So I want to talk about his NBA prospects and what you guys think of him as he tries to make it to the next level. Jonesy, start with you.
You know, as Sherm said about teaching size, I mean, you can always use that kind of size. You watch him move. He's not this robotic, static 7-footer that can't move. He has a great nose for the ball, for the game, and it's not like he's going to be switching out and guarding guys at the three-point line. But at the same time, when he's asked to play away from the basket, he's good at it. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. Regardless of the era, you can always use a guy who's that big and that skilled.
Well, the kid Walker Kessler for Utah,
Yeah.
who has this springy, rebounding, defensive presence. You flip that offensively, and this is what Edey gives you in terms of a guy, you can give him the ball, he can get you something, a good enough passer. But he's going to have to work on his mobility, but there's a place for him in the league because of his skill set. And we see it nowadays where, yeah, the NBA wants to shoot a lot of threes. But when you have the guy you can throw the ball to, it changes everything you can do offensively. And I think if he can continue to develop, continue to get the mobility into his game and his ability to switch out on screens a little bit, maybe just be able to flatten people out. You're not going to get out there and shuffle your feet and cut people off, but flatten them out and make sure they're not attacking your feet. Offensively, he can definitely do some things with his size and his touch and his skill set. So, he's going to be a high draft pick, and he's going to be one of those guys that I feel is going to have impact in the NBA.
All right, let's talk about predictions. First off, is everyone doing a bracket this year? Are we still bracketing?
Yeah,
I got about 50, I got about 15 on the go.
I do it, but it's all in pencil.
It's all in pencil.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It changes round by round.
That's what I'm saying.
Who cares? Nobody knows.
As soon as you look at it, then an hour later, you're like, no, I like these. It changes.
All right, well, we're doing this one in ink, though. Any predictions? Sherm, we'll start with you. VCU, what round?
All the way.
What do you
I'm not
want?
that
Final?
person.
You want 4?
Let me get your final 4.
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
You want to think about it? I'll give you mine.
Yeah,
I'll give you
I
mine.
know who I got in the final. I got Alabama and Texas in the final.
Okay, the Cougars,
And I got
the overall
Alabama
number one,
winning
are
it.
eliminated. Alabama winning it.
Yeah.
Okay.
My final 4 is Alabama, Purdue, Texas, and UCLA.
Houston. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Over Houston.
Yeah,
Bruins.
yeah. I like Houston, but I've seen them play, and I'm not, by no means, I haven't tracked them, but I've seen them play 4 or 5 times. Now, 2 of those were against Memphis, who I think is very underrated. But you know how it is. It's one game. Maybe I watched them on a bad – it's not like the NBA where you got to beat a man down 4 times out of 7. You can catch lightning in a bottle. The tournament, it's not like – we're golfers. In golf, you got to beat every guy in a tournament. Every guy. In the NCAA, you just play who's in front of you. So, I look at Houston. I see some potential roadblocks there.
Who do you have?
Myself personally, I went with Houston the overall number 1 in my bracket because I'm playing it safe. I'm playing the numbers here, okay? This is the era of gambling, so I'm trying to, secure my spot at the top of my bracket. VCU is a Cinderella, though. They're going to make some noise?
Of course. That's what we do.
Okay. Is the tournament the same tournament we grew up with? Because I know a lot has changed in the NCAA now. We're in the era of players getting paid and having other options like Europe and like the G League. But does this tournament still resonate the same way with the fan base as it has through traditional years?
I think so, but for different reasons.
Okay.
I think now you mentioned the gambling piece.
Yeah.
Now that it's exploding, I think
It's out in the
get
open.
More,
It's
you
out
get
in the
more
open now.
people who want to get involved for that reason. That probably don't watch college basketball at all until the tournament because they can get involved on the gambling side. And I think what we're seeing with, players going overseas and G League Ignite and things like that, we're still not getting the loyalty to the programs that we used to get, where you knew a guy was going to be there 3 years, potentially 4 years, where you could follow the progression and root for a guy and root for a team.
Yeah, Marcus Carr's on his third team in 6 years.
100%.
Right.
So it's just not – it's different, but I'm not saying it's bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Sherm. There used to be the office pool where everybody gave their $5 or $10 and somebody looked after all the brackets. That's gone now because
online.
You can get online. You got an app. You can make a bet. You can bet while the game is on, for crying out loud.
Prop bets.
And the thing that makes some of these mid-major schools dangerous is they don't have all the one and dones.
Yes.
Guys are there for 3, 4 years, 2, 3, 4 years, and they build something. And those are the teams that I think are dangerous. To me, the tournament always has the same level of excitement. I'm not necessarily in on all of the gambling stuff. I mean, I'm aware of it, but just watching it for the pure basketball and the excitement and the enthusiasm that kids play with and what it means to win. The competitors really come out at this time of year.
I think they should change the shot clock.
Shorten it?
Shorten it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The possession is long.
Yes.
It's a very long possession.
That's one of my least favorite parts of the NCAA game. Now, speaking of the competitors on this side are the members of your Toronto Raptors. It's time to check in with the players over at OVO.
Played, I think it's twice as many games in the G League this year as you did last year. How have you handled that? Like, how's that been?
Just kind of understanding, circumstance and situation. Just knowing that, I was set back with some injuries this year. So kind of just trying to find my way back into the rotation, using the 9 to 5 just to get reps, just to stay in shape, stay ready. So, it's never a downgrade. It's never a punishment type thing. Just going out there, staying professional and, being ready for my name to be called. Just definitely being an all-around player, trying to get guys, more involved. And kind of just trying to figure out my own game, just trying to play with pace, learning how to slow it down, knowing how to pick it up, knowing when to use speed and when not to. So just kind of trying to figure out more reads and stuff like that.
And I mean, I think it's 7 of 8, and your home record is pretty good. You need wins.
Right. Yeah.
At the moment, so. I know it's one game at a time, but I can see it feels like kind of a crucial couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Good challenge. Go out there, play ball, and again, be a chance. Like I have a chance to be at home and just have an opportunity to get some wins. So like it's good. It's good. Just like a good run, good stretch, and we just gotta keep doing what we do, and just see what we can do out here on this stretch.
Looking ahead for the Toronto Raptors, up next on the docket, a dance with the Denver Nuggets, a team that they went to the wire with, a controversial ending. Ooh. So let's talk about this rematch. The Toronto Raptors were able to slow down Nikola Jokic, presumably the MVP of this season, depending on how the voting goes. But it was the role players that got loose. Now, is that still the recipe that you're looking for? Do the Raptors need to change things up, Sherm, when it comes to slowing down a Denver Nuggets team that seems to be firing on all cylinders from all positions?
I think when you're talking about slowing somebody down and they're 1 assist away from a triple-double on 8 shots, but to his normal output, yes, they slowed him down. But his impact was still late in the game.
Yes.
When the game was on the line, they went to that pick and roll under the three-point line where he's catching the ball at the free throw line, and he's just too deadly there. But if you can limit him to 8 shots, like you did in that game against Denver, yeah, you're going to give yourself a chance to win, and hopefully the role players don't respond the way they do at home, which is typical. Right. On the road they're different. Yep. But I thought the game plan was very good. I thought Mike Malone, who's another great coach in this league, adjusted well and got Jokic operating close to the basket. But I liked how they attacked Jokic on the screen and roll and made him have to move his feet. And that's the screen and roll action late in the game where he got into the middle, he was there, and he made his plays. He's just too much in terms of how he can impact the game. But and the ending, let's not talk about that. That's
hopefully controversy.
That's a bit of a
this
touchy
game.
situation.
Yeah.
I thought Nick Nurse's game plan was terrific. I thought on the defensive end, and listen, I had an NBA type call me and say it was as if Nick Nurse took the game plan and threw it in the garbage in Denver, and everybody else came in and looked at it. Because the next night, the Chicago Bulls went in and beat Denver soundly, using basically the same game plan. Then the game after that, the San Antonio Spurs, it was on the road, but used the same game plan. Denver comes into Toronto having lost 3 in a row. And I think kind of the secret is out. You're not going to beat them consistently using this, but this might be the best way to attack them. And I thought Nick Nurse did a terrific job. And, save for the ending where things fell apart, Toronto was in that game and, dare I say, controlled it for a lot of the time. Listen, they went into Denver last year on the second night of the back-to-back and did that. And then they come in again here after the long trip across the country against Washington and, dare I say, could have won the game. So I think whatever the book is that Nick Nurse has on Denver, we're going to see it again on Tuesday night.
Well, that was actually my next question, knowing that this is the first game back after a long road trip, first home game in a while. Can they kind of bring that philosophy back? And what do they address on their own end? Are there any tweaks that Nick Nurse does with his group to try to fortify something to build a run towards the end of the season?
Well, I think Nick, he's a very, very smart guy when
Crafty.
it comes to great game planning. And I don't think he has to change much. I just think he has to be aware of how Mike Malone adjusted late in the game to how he utilized Jokic. Because remember, Jokic was on the bench for a long stretch during that game because the Raptors attacked him so much he couldn't be on the floor. And I think Nick understands there are some things that work, and he's going to have counters to what Mike Malone tries to do for sure, because it's like a playoff situation. That might work in one game completely. It's probably not going to work as consistently the next time based on adjustments. So he'll be prepared, and I think the game plan will look similar, and then there will be the little tweaks that he'll have.
The chess match continues, Jonesy.
This is a tough one because the first game back after a long trip.
The good thing is they've had a few days.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to say. First game back generally is like another game. It's like the last game of the road trip before you acclimate. But they've had a few days to get acclimated with home again, to get back into a routine with practice. So
check out some tape.
I'm looking for that sense of urgency and attention to detail for the Raptors on Tuesday night, and see if they can get a win against Denver. I love the game plan, though.
Yeah, for sure. Both teams are coming in hungry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Raptors win one game on a road trip. Denver comes in, losers of three.
Yeah.
Both teams are looking for a win. This should be a really, really intense game.
Looking like a heavyweight bout. Well, you've got the Toronto Raptors taking on the Denver Nuggets Tuesday, 7:30. You can catch the video on Sportsnet, the radio call, TSN 1050. That does it for us. You see us again Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in to Raptors Today. Deuces.